Hello there guys, you're listening to Ebird Online, and I'm here with my very first review from 90 Day Fiancé Before the 90 Days, Season 4, Episode 1. I finally feel a little bit better, and I'm gradually getting over my flu. So you'll have to bear with me for these first round of reviews, and I'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. So today, I'm going to be talking about Ed and Rose, and Yolanda and Williams. Williams with an S. Yes guys, we'll talk about that later. Guys, you know the drill. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And thank you guys so much for all your messages of support and your get well messages. It really does mean a lot. And you'll be glad to know that Ebird is on the mend. So without further ado, let's get to Ed and Rose. So Ed is 54, he's from California, and Ed's a photographer. And Rose, well, she's in her early 20s and she's from the Philippines. And when we first catch up with Ed, he's in the middle of a photo shoot, and Ed lets us know he's a professional photographer. Ed's somewhat self-conscious of his height, and Ed tells us that he's 4'11", and I'm not quite sure if that's his width or his height. In fact, it could well be both. Ed has given himself the nickname Big Ed, and he gave himself the nickname Big Ed because it's funny, because he's not tall. Come on everyone, laugh along, even you guys at the back. Big Ed, because he's short. You guys, it's ironic. I don't really know that I want to call him Big Ed. I think I might just call him Giraffe. That's ironic too. Ed tells us he's able to get over being short because he calls himself Big Ed. And we see him taking photos of models in a studio. And when I say models, you guys, again, it's ironic. I can't begin to describe what they're wearing. One of the models looks like she's burglarised a video vixen and stolen all her clothes, and the other model looks like an extra from Mean Girls. So Ed tells us a little bit about his background. He tells us nearly 30 years ago he was married. And he shows us a shot of him and his wife at the time, and it's really weird because basically it's on their actual wedding day and she's wearing her wedding dress, but for some bizarre reason Ed is on a chair next to her, she's standing up and he's sitting down. Like, I really don't get this photograph. Ed tells us that the marriage ended because he cheated. And from what I can see looking at Ed, he doesn't really seem the kind of, yeah, I wreck homes and what kind of guy. I've got a feeling that she cheated on him. I just find it exceedingly difficult to believe that Ed cheated on her. He then tells us he never had a relationship for the next 28 years and he devoted himself to his daughter, Tiffany. So next up we see Ed riding on his moped with his little dog, who I must admit is quite cute, and Ed's off to the post office. When he arrives in the post office, he explains that he's spent over $5,000 in gifts for Rose and her family. As far as he knows, none of the gifts have arrived as yet because she lives in such a remote village in the Philippines. And the guy who works in the post office, Ryan, seems like somewhat of a busybody, and he tells us he thinks Ed's a little crazy sending so much to this girl. And then Ryan, who's a rather intrusive individual, asks Ed for a rundown of everything he sent to Rose. And Ed says, well, I sent her father a grill, I've also sent her duck feather pillows, and I've sent her sheets. Wow, it would seem that Big Ed is a very generous guy. We're then treated to a photo with a gaggle of Filipinos who are no doubt resting their weary head on duck feather pillows and roasting chicken on the George Foreman lean, mean, fat reducing machine that Ed has sent them. And then Ed tells nosy Ryan, I'm getting pushback from everybody. They're all skeptical, my family, my friends, and my daughter hasn't spoken to me in over a month. She's not happy with me at all. But then he tells us no one's ever touched his heart the way that Rose had, and he knows in his heart she's the one for him. Ed, it's not really what you know in your heart who's the one for you. What we really need to know is, are you the one for her? Something tells me that you may well not be. And Ed lets us in on a little secret. Rose is 5'3", and he's told her that he's 5'3" as well, but in fact he's not, he's 4'11". I find it's always good to start a relationship on a big lie, and a lie that's going to be found out immediately upon meeting the person. I don't know, it just sort of makes sense if you're an idiot. And next time we meet up with Ed, he tells us he's leaving in 6 days to meet with Rose, who's the girl of his dreams, and one of the people giving him pushback is his mum, and so he goes to meet his mum. And I gotta admit, she seems less than impressed with the whole situation. And Ed explains to us that his mum's from Mexico and she met his dad when he was in the Air Force. They met in Mexico and then she moved to America and they got married. And it was a beautiful love story. And he explains to us that she's been through exactly the same thing that he's going through. Ed, no she hasn't. Your mum actually met your dad in person. She didn't go fishing around for him on the internet. And I'm imagining she didn't start the relationship with a myriad of lies. So we can see that Ed gets his height from his mum. She looks about 4'9". And his mum asks, are you serious about Rose? And he says, yes, I am. And his mum said, well, don't stay at the house. Make sure you're staying somewhere different. And he said, no, we're staying at the house. And she said, are you staying in the same bed? And he said, yes, of course. I've bought the pillows and I've bought the sheets and everything that I need. But wait, presents for yourself, Ed. So the previous generosity that I thought you had was a typical 90-day fiancé type generosity. I'm buying gifts for somebody else, but really for myself. And Ed explains to us that he had to buy sheets and pillows because he has a really bad skin complaint, and he said he's got highly sensitive skin and he has to have at least 1,000 thread count Egyptian cotton, and he can't use any detergents or cosmetics and so on, otherwise he breaks out in an awful rash. And he further explains to us that since he's met Rose, he started dyeing his hair, and he slathers his hair in mayonnaise because it makes it so soft. Ed, for soft, read greasy. Greasy AF. And even Ed tells us he smells like an egg mayonnaise salad. What could possibly go wrong in Rose's eyes when she meets Ed? Well, first, he's an individual with a sensitive skin complaint. He's really 4'11" and not 5'3" as he said. He's been single for 28 years, so the overwhelming chances are he's probably not that great at managing relationships. The relationships he has had, whether within marriage or not, he's managed to cheat on. We can see he likes a bit of dinner, and he washes his hair in mayonnaise, and he smells like an egg salad sandwich. Somehow, I don't think Rose is going to be impressed. And then his mum says that she's super concerned about him buying a ring, and she said, please don't ask her to marry you. You're moving too fast. But he said, nope, I'm taking a ring with me, and if everything goes well, I'm going to ask her to marry me. And his mum said she's very worried about things, and the truth be told, I'm with mummy. I too am worried about how hard-faced Rose must be in order to try and convince us all that she's in love with Ed, who she's never met. She's only 23. He's shorter than her. I wonder what kind of girl this Rose is. Well, it doesn't take long to find out, because the next time we see him, he decides to Skype Rose. And he says, hi, my queen. And she said, hello, my king. And he said, I can't wait in 6 days. I'm flying 6,000 miles and taking 3 planes to see you. And what was Rose's response? Did she say, I can't wait to see you as well? No, she sort of went, pooh, and made a little signal of a plane taking off and landing. I can really tell they've got a lot to talk about. And next, Rose brings in her 4-year-old son, who's her little prince. So he comes on screen and he unexcitedly says, hi, Daddy. Daddy? Oh, come on now, Rose. He's never met Ed. Why would you have your kid calling somebody daddy that he's never met? And then Ed asks Rose, what happens if when you see me, you run away? And I guess he's asking this because he's told her a few porcupines. And he asked her, how do you know that I'm the one? And she said, I just know. I just know that you're my one. And he said, but what do you like about me? And she said, I don't know. And then he said, the only thing that worries me is that you've got 4,000 friends on Facebook. Why is that? I've only got about 1,000 friends. And then he shows us her Facebook. She actually has 3,500, but I digress. And he asked, do you talk to them like you talk to me? And she said, no. And when she says no, she means, yes, of course I do. And he said, I'm also worried about your ex-boyfriend. And she looked a little bit shifty. And then he said, where is your ex-boyfriend? Is he there now? And suddenly the screen froze and the call was disconnected. Ed decided to call her straight back. But strangely enough, given that her and her son were both in the house, she manages not to respond. So she didn't reconnect the call. And Ed tells us she's very evasive when I talk about the past. Ed, I think you'll more than likely find that it's not the past, that it's very much the present. But don't worry guys, Ed's got a foolproof plan to make sure that she's being honest with him, and he tells us that when he gets to the Philippines, he's going to force her to take an STD test. What? Then he says, I'm a germaphobe, I need to stay away from bacteria, and she must take this STD test before I make any commitment to her. And that's where we end with Ed for today. So Ed's idea of finding out if she really loves him and if she's really true to him is that she must pass an STD test. Ed, that means nothing. She could be sleeping with 20 guys, and as long as any of those 20 guys don't have an STD, she'll pass the STD test. That's beyond ridiculous for a test, and I think that Ed's actually just creating a test which she'll almost certainly pass, so that he can then say, oh well, that means she's being true to me. Ed, she's still going to try and finesse you, she's still going to try and trick you, she's still going to try and get all the money that she can out of you and get to the USA and make a new life for herself, regardless of whether she's in love with you or not. And there's no STD test that's going to test for that. And guys, I don't know what you think, but we've already got the makings of an absolute car crash on this very first relationship. So guys, let me know what you think. Do you think that Ed's a fool to have lied about his height? And what do you think to Rose putting down the phone? Do you think the ex-boyfriend, or so-called ex-boyfriend, is actually present and she's still with him and he's in on the scam? I've got a feeling that very probably he is. So let me know in comments down below what you think. And next up, we're going to talk about Yolanda and Williams. So Yolanda is 51 and she's from Las Vegas, Nevada. Williams is 40 and allegedly from Manchester, the UK. So we catch up with Yolanda at the gym and she's working out. And she explains to us that she used to be over 300 pounds and she's lost 150 pounds. And that when she was a lot bigger, it was quite a lot of shame the weight that she carried, and she used to be very introverted, but now she's an extrovert, and she says, now I think I'm real cute. And to be fair, for 51, Yolanda's shaping up pretty well. And Yolanda tells us that she's a go-getter, and she tells us when she wants something, she goes straight out and she gets it. She was previously married to someone called Dwayne, who was the father of her 6 kids. And she was married to him for 30 years. So she has 3 boys and 3 girls, and they're all aged in between 17 and 29. Yolanda tells us that sadly Dwayne got sick about 6 years ago and he died of kidney disease, and she says that he was her one and only love, and that's why she decided to lose all the weight. She wanted to get healthy for her kids. So we're treated to a shot of her eating dinner with her kids and discussing love and life and just generally interacting with her kids. And the kids have a chat to producers and they say that they're her best friends, but that her social life is at a standstill at the moment. But little do they know, her social life is about to go in a markedly different direction. Whether that's a turn for the better or for the worse, only time will tell, because Yolanda has met Williams. Yes, Williams with an S. And apparently he's from Manchester, England, and he's a personal trainer, and they met online. He slid into her DMs on Insta. And she tells us he's simply gorgeous, and the photos that she shows of him, yep, he's a looker, and Williams is ripped to the gods. So guys, immediately, I smelled a rat. Williams is not an English name, William is an English name, but most people call themselves Wills or Will. Also, even though Yolanda's a beautiful looking lady, he is a little bit too good to be true. And the final reason for my initial doubt was the photos that he sent. In every single shot the sun is shining, and anybody that's ever been to the UK knows we only have about 3 days of sun per year, and the sun actually physically cannot come out in Manchester. I've been to Manchester many times and I have never ever seen the sun. In fact I've only ever been to Manchester in the driving and incessant rain. So what next? Well, Williams thinks Yolanda's 45 and Williams tells Yolanda he's 40. She's a little bit worried about telling him a white lie, but she says, I dress younger to make sure that he doesn't know really I'm 51. And she tells us next week she's going with her daughter Cara to meet Williams in Manchester. Cara doesn't seem too impressed. She tells us Yolanda has never FaceTimed Williams, and Yolanda explains that's because the camera on Williams' phone has broken. I can't see him, but he can see me. And he calls her 20 times a day. Yolanda, only a scammer has this sort of time on their hands. And then we're treated to a call from Williams. And Williams said, hello baby, how are you? And surprise, surprise, Williams had a straight up Nigerian accent. But Yolanda tells us, I love the English accent, it's the sexiest in the world. That's as may be, but you need to be able to decipher what an English accent is in the first instance, Yolanda. And it's not just the fact he has a very strong Nigerian accent, but he only has a rudimentary grasp on English. And Cara describes Williams as a random guy. I describe Williams as a Nigerian. And they chit-chat on the phone. And then he finally says, I love you, baby. Michael? Michael, is that you? Oh my god, guys, I'm actually worried for Yolanda. My money's on Angela in a straight-up scrap between Yolanda and Angela. I think Angela will fight real dirty. And then Yolanda tells us that Williams asked her for the money for a plane ticket to come to America. And she said she was a little bit disappointed and surprised at this. Oh, Yolanda, try repulsed and disgusted. What kind of man would need to ask for money for a plane ticket? It's only like $400 or $500 to get to America. Come on now. But Yolanda at least has her head screwed on in one way, because she said, no, I'm not going to send you the ticket, but what I will do is I'll come to see you in England. And she says she's curious to see how he lives in England. Yolanda, I'm curious to see if he lives in England. And if he does live in England, I'm curious to see if he has his papers. And if he does have his papers, I'd like to see them forthwith. But she hasn't told any of her other kids that she's met somebody. And she tells Cara, her eldest, please back me up with the other kids when I go to tell them. I need your support. That's nice that she's got the support of Cara. At least she's got someone that's got her back. And so they all sit down for dinner, and she tells her kids that she's met somebody online and that he's slid into her DMs. And to say they're unhappy is an understatement. The word catfish is liberally sprinkled over the conversation. Where did you meet, they ask her. Online. Online? 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 Oh, mama. Online? Online? Mama, online? It seems that they're all in agreement. Meeting somebody online is not a good look, especially with somebody who's older, as one of her sons put it. Come on, Cara, back your mum up. And Cara says, well, she's never ever FaceTimed him, she's never seen him. And they all say, oh my God, what? And you trust him? This guy's a scammer. This guy's a catfish. Cara, with you as an ally, I never need an enemy. And Cara stood up for her mum in the way that your enemy stood up for you at school. I don't know where she is, sir, but she was here in registration. I saw her. Oh, she's called in sick again. That's really surprising, because I looked on her Facebook earlier and she was still out at 4 in the morning. Maybe she got sick in between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m. Who knows? Yep, Cara is a straight up stitch up. But nothing's going to stop Yolanda. She's completely convinced that William's the one for her. And she just can't wait to meet him. She tells him she's been talking to him for 8 months and she's in love. So let me know what you guys think. And I'm not going to talk about if Williams is a scammer or not. I think it's clear that he is. But I want to know, what do you guys think will happen when Yolanda meets him? Do you think she'll still continue the relationship? Or do you think she'll cut it dead because he doesn't look what he said he was going to look like and he's not from where he says he's from? And how do you think her kids are going to react? Do you think there's going to be a massive kickback? I actually think that the boys will put up quite a bit of a fight. I think Yolanda's in for a very, very rocky ride. And her daughter tells us because she's been through such a lot, she thinks that that's clouding her judgment. And I make her right. If she's only had very few relationships because she's been married for 30 years, it's difficult for her to navigate her way through this whole maze of online liars and scammers and so on. But I still got to say, her naivety is breathtaking. So guys, let me know what you think down below, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video, and I'll try and cover 3 or 4 more of the couples tomorrow before the next episode, so we can hopefully get back up to speed. So whatever you're doing, have a great one, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Ebird99, and keep those comments coming in. You know I love to listen to them. You've been listening to Ebird Online. Ciao for now.